A lot of features in Lexington that are named after famous racehorses.
Yeah, Michael asked, the four-way stop of Versailles and Alexandria has a wall in each corner, and the corners have famous thoroughbred racehorse names on each of them: Secretariat, Seattle Slew, Citation, and Alysheba. 3 of these are Triple Crown winners. Why is Alysheba rather than affirmed on the 4th wall? Victor Puente has tonight's answer to that good question.
Well, if you're only going by the order of Triple Crown wins, affirmed would follow Citation, Secretariat, and Seattle Slew. But the Triple Crown isn't the only reason those horses were chosen. City spokesperson Susan Straub told me 3 of the 4 horses that were selected have a strong connection to the greater Lexington region. Citation, born in 1945, was owned and bred by Calumet Farm here in Lexington. Seattle Slew was born in 1974 in Lexington. Alysheba, who won 2 legs of the Triple Crown, was born at Hamburg Place Farm in 1984. And the 4th horse on those walls, Secretariat, retired nearby at Claiborne Farm in Paris. She told me he was included, giving his record-breaking accomplishments. She also told me that Affirmed is the Florida horse with little connection to the area. If you have a good question, just email us, goodquestion@wkyt.com. I'll see you on WKYT Mornings.